Hi, I'm Helen, and I started the Silver Lake Reading Club last year. What began as a simple idea, a space to read together, has grown into a vibrant community here in Silver Lake, Los Angeles. Each week, we gather to share the quiet joy of reading side by side and often welcome guest authors to introduce their latest books. In just 1 year, we've hosted over 90 events, 60 authors, welcomed more than 2,000 readers, and collectively enjoyed over 6,000 books. At our heart, we're about more than reading. We're about connection, discovery, and the community that forms around a shared love of books. We're thrilled to share some big news. Our very first podcast, Adaptation. Each episode explores the journey of books as they make their way onto screen, diving into the art and challenges of transforming stories from page to film and television. The host of Adaptation is my good friend and award winning journalist, author, and musician, Deborah Stoll.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deborah. Thank you for the intro, Helen. I'm the author of two nonfiction books, dozens of articles and essays, an award-winning screenplay that has never been produced, and a bunch of songs that have been played on a bunch of TV shows. I met my friend Helen last year just as I was finishing my third book, a novel called Fake Friends that I'd always envisioned getting published traditionally, but also adapted for the screen. And every month when Helen and I would catch up, our conversations inevitably returned to the confluence of the literary world and the world of Hollywood, both of us sharing a love of storytelling that goes beyond the page, and the idea for a podcast was born. Adaptation is our way of sharing conversations we have with creatives from all sides of the book to screen process. Whether you're in the film or publishing industry or just love great stories, we think you'll enjoy hearing from our amazing guests.
In this week's episode of Adaptation, Deborah sits down with Diane Marie Brown, the author of Black Candlewomen. Find out what happens when her debut novel gets optioned for TV by Jenna Bush Hager, then a writer's strike hits Hollywood.
Hi, Diane. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Of course.
We are here to talk about Black Candle Women,
Yay.
which appears backwards to viewers. I wanted to start off talking about your writing life, your history of writing books or short stories or whatever you wrote before.
Well, Black Candlewoman is my debut. So it's the first book that I published. It's not the first book that I wrote. I've actually written a few other books, as I'm sure your audience might be aware that sometimes it's not the first book that sells. And so yeah, I've been writing since I was fairly young. My mom taught elementary school and she always encouraged me to write and tell stories. I was an only child. So I was by myself a lot. And so I would just make up stories. And she, as a teacher, just had like all this scrap paper, and she was a crafter. So she would make these little books. So I would just write these stories about, who knows what was going on. Similar.
Did she make like empty books for you to write in, or did you write stories and then she turned them into books?
No, she would make these empty books. They're kind of like remind me of like journals today, but she was a crafter. So it was just like cardboard and a little bit of like the padding that you use in quilts, and then she would wrap it in fabric. It was like three little parts, the spine and the front and the back. And so I had fun writing, but I never thought about it as a career. So when it was time to go to college, I was very practical. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to be an econ major, pre-business. I'm gonna open my own business. Who knows what that business was? I just, I kind of,
Business.
that's what I pictured. You go to college and then you get the suit and the briefcase and you go to a high-rise building somewhere doing who knows what. I moved down to Los Angeles to go to school, and my sophomore year, I had a daughter so I was pretty young. I was 19, and just in my spare time, I went back to reading, and that's when I came across Terry McMillan, I think I started with Waiting to Excel, and then I read, I think Disappearing Acts. I kind of read what she had available at the time. And it was the first time where I kind of thought like, oh, wow, this is a Black woman who is writing books that are contemporary at the time. And
Representation, like seeing somebody that looked like you represented in a field that you never imagined, kind of made you realize that it was possible.
yes, because I think before that, my reading taste, it was very it's on the tip of my tongue, the Sweet Valley High. But
Incredible books.
right. But nobody in Sweet Valley High looked like me. I just kind of thought that these books are made somewhere by these special group of people, and they're the ones that get to write books, and we all get to read them, but that's not something that I
Yeah.
would ever think about doing. So come Terry McMillan, and I start learning a little bit more about her background, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe I could write a book. So I tried in my 20s to write a book. It wasn't a very good book because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, no, it's your first pancake.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very, very bad pancake. Um,
What was it called?
Oh, I don't even know, but it was just a mirror of what my friends and I were doing at the time. There was no like beginning, middle, and end. It was just like fun times and
Yeah. Yep.
no drama, no arc or anything. But I still try to pitch it. And of course, I heard nothing. Then I went to grad school and started working in public health. I got married, I had more kids, and I'm just doing life. For many years, I worked at the Long Beach Health Department. Technically, I still work there, but I don't really put in too many hours. And it was going to be their centennial, their 100-year anniversary, and they wanted something big and fun. And so I pitched the idea of doing a theatrical production. It was called The Directors. It was around the time when The Producers was out on Broadway. So it was kind of a play on that.
What year is this?
This was 2006.
Okay.
People were just like, "Oh my gosh, Diane, did you go to school for this? Like, how are you writing? Like, what's going on?"
Your hidden talents were revealed.
Right, right. And so it just kind of set me on fire again. And I'm like, well, I could see that my writing probably could use some help. So I decided to go back to school. So USC had something called the Master of Professional Writing program, and it was really designed for working professionals. My area was fiction, even though I took classes in all the other areas, especially screenwriting. I took quite a few screenwriting classes. And that is where I started Black Candle Woman.
Can you give me your synopsis of the
Sure.
book?
Black Candle Woman tells the story of a group of, or a family of all women, 4 generations that live in the same house, who are dealing with a curse that kills anyone with whom they fall in love. And so the book begins when the youngest of this family, a teenager, brings home a love interest for the first time. She's unaware of the curse. And as a young person who wants to be in love, she is really focused on trying to break the curse when she learns what's going on. And we also go back to 1950s New Orleans, where we learned about the curse's origin that was put into place by a voodoo sorceress. And so after I graduated from that program, I kept working on it for about another year, year and a half, tried to find an agent and was unsuccessful.
This agent search process, was it later? Now we have the database online. Did you do it online or did you still go to
Yes.
Barnes and Noble and get that like big book
Yes.
names?
Yes, by then I had gone online, although we were still mailing things for some reason.
That's a huge stack of paper to
Right.
mail. And
Yes.
expensive as a broke ass writer, like
Yes.
selling to 10, 15, 20 agents.
And I got a couple of full requests, but um, nobody was really biting. And I'd revise a little bit, and then a few years later, try again. And I kind of was hearing kind of the similar problem that people were saying I had pacing issues, which I
Uh,
didn't really understand what that meant at the time. But basically, they're just It's I guess, a way of saying nothing's happening or it's boring. So what happened was from the querying process, I never was able to get an agent. Then in 2020, we had the pandemic and I was busy working with the health department. And then we had the unfortunate reality of George Floyd. And there was a particular literary house, an imprint of a major publisher who said that they would read and give feedback on fiction from Black creators or Black writers who did not have agents.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I know that there are barriers, including racism, but other types of barriers that keep Black writers from getting agents, getting deals. The biggest thing that for me was they said that they would offer feedback.
You had said some of the agents said pacing, but each person has a different point of view on what's wrong, right?
That
Or what they
also.
think is wrong, or what they think needs changing. And it's either that or they don't say anything. They just say thank you, or you never hear back. So it's very difficult unless you're in school and or have a writing group of trusted readers to get feedback from. If you get all this rejection, you don't know whether it's all bad or what's bad or
Right.
what you can change or if it's just, you know, if it's not worth it. So that's amazing that they offered that to you.
Couple weeks after I sent my query, there's a query in I think 5 or 10 pages. There was an editor there who said she would be interested in reading the entire manuscript. The day I heard from her, I got COVID.
Oh my God.
So I was feeling terrible, but then I get this email and she said, "Hey, I'd like to see the full manuscript." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
When you get news like that, because it's such huge news, because it
Right.
takes so long to get any responses, and they're all negative until there's that one. Oh yeah, I'd be interested to read your manuscript. Um, what is your initial reaction? Because my initial reaction is always to like freak out and feel overwhelmed and like shut down the computer and go to bed. It's like not,
I,
it doesn't feel joyous. It feels
yes,
like it feels too painful.
I can't focus. I can't sleep. Even if I try to sleep, the wheels are turning.
I think about the future. I think like this is such good news, but is the next one going to be bad news? I start immediately like thinking of yeah, all
Yes.
the bad things that are going to happen after the good thing.
Yes.
I might need to look into that. Anyway, so okay, so you're like you fix it up as much as you possibly can and you send it off.
And then I don't hear anything. The period ends when they're accepting submissions, and I didn't get feedback or anything. So that was in the summer, and it was only later that I found out that they had 900 submissions. So in December of 2020, I get an email from the editor saying, "Hey, we really like your book. I'm interested in it, but I have to make sure that the entire team is supportive because I something you may not realize as a new writer is that it's not just the acquiring editor, but they have to get support from other editors, from their bosses, from even like sales and marketing.
They have to pitch your book that you've
Yes,
to them.
exactly.
Yeah.
So she said I should hear something in the new year.
That's such a hard month.
Right, right. And then it was, I think, in March when I finally heard back that they wanted to buy my book, but I needed an agent.
So just so everybody knows, like that is no publisher will actually, in generally speaking, in normal times, accept a manuscript from a writer that's not represented.
At the big five, I'd say that would be rare. But smaller publishers, independent publishers, they have a bit more flexibility, and sometimes you can pitch the editors directly, or they might be willing to work with a writer without an agent.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm only familiar with the five.
the five. Yeah.
So what was that process like getting an agent when you already have a publisher? How did that work?
Right. So they knew of an agent that they'd worked with, um, that they shared with me, and they said they would be willing to reach out to her and you know, let them know what was going on about their interest, and that I could also reach out to different agents. So I kind of did both. Um, I read the agent that they shared was somebody I hadn't known about her, but once I looked her up and learned about her, I was like, oh my gosh, she's like my dream agent. And she wasn't open to queries. She gets her clients through referrals or through conferences. I'd just gone to AWP online, and there is an agent whose session I went to that I really liked. And so I also reached out to her. She wanted me to revise and resubmit. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
did
so she
notes
has,
though?
huh?
She gave you notes for a revision, or she just,
She said she hadn't given me the notes yet, but she said she wasn't going to sign me. She said if I was interested in a revise and resubmit, then she would give me notes, but it would take her some time to give notes. And then if she was still interested, then we could enter into an agreement. You might just think like, well, hey, like you have an offer, that's wonderful. But from an agent perspective, they're thinking about, well, how much are we going to be able to negotiate? And if we don't like this offer, we're going to want to take it elsewhere. And so they wanted to
oh, I see.
be in what they felt would be a state where they could pitch it.
Yeah,
Uh,
like more of a power position.
right, right.
Yeah. Okay. So you're like, forget you.
Well,
I'm
yeah, I mean, I'm like, well, my dream agent still hasn't gotten back to me, so hopefully she is interested, and she was interested, turns out, and so she's my agent now.
Is there any point where you have a discussion with your agent about pitching the book for film and TV?
That's a great question. No, not at all. We we were just trying to get the book revised, edited.
Right.
So my editor had quite a few notes, and so there's four points of view characters
Yeah.
technically, and so making a change in one place, it can have a domino effect, and you have to scramble things. And so, the revision process wasn't as straightforward, especially if we were introducing new story elements or taking certain elements out or,
And you
uh,
go back in time, so anything that happens in the past that you're going to change, you have to change through every character's point of view in the future.
right. And I really feel like, you know, I'm, I think I've kind of made it seem like these edits or suggested edits like a, were like burdensome. They're not. I think she helped me write a better book.
You're all done with the process, and the book's coming out in.
Set to come out in March of 2023.
Okay.
So I finished writing it in l- about May, June 2022, a lot of time before the pub date because they're working on their sales plan. Their salespeople have to reach out to bookstores and try to get them to buy a certain number of copies of the book. And the marketing team is figuring out how they want to place the book and what kind of ads they want to use. They are also sending out the book to influencers and to the various book clubs. So
Yeah.
they have to send those out pretty early. So even not the finalized form, like a galley that they're sending out. So the book was scheduled to come out in March, but in August, I got an email from my editor, and she asked if I had time for a phone call later that night.
Didn't say what it might be about.
She didn't
Oh
say.
my God, I
Luckily,
hate
she
that.
said at the bottom, and everybody's relationship with their editors are different. We were very much over email. A
Uh-huh.
lot of a lot of discussions, a lot of back and forth, but it was all over email. I think we had one time where we hopped on a phone just to really flesh things out quickly.
Oh,
Um,
so she's asking you for a phone call.
yes, yes. So yeah, and this whole time, with all the revisions and pushing the dates back, in
Yeah.
my mind, I'm thinking always, not always, but often, oh, they're gonna cancel the deal. Like it's off. They've changed their mind. It's too much work.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
You
so
suck. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Oh my.
So when I got the note, I was like, oh man, I've finished writing it. I was finally kind of relaxing, like, what is going on now? But luckily at the bottom, she said, nice news.
Oh,
She's like, I just need
was
to,
it in like fine print?
yeah, yeah. Because she said, I need to, and she said, I have to finalize a time because she need my agent to be on the call too. And I'm like, oh man, what is this all about? And so I got on the call and they asked me if I was sitting down, and I said yes. And they said, do you have champagne? And I was like, no, but I could get some. And so that's when they told me that Read with Jenna and the Today Show had picked my book as their pick for March of 2023. And I was just like, what? Like, that's not something I ever even thought of or imagined.
And you were at your dad's house.
Yes. And then they said, hold on, there's more. Jenna Bush Hager has also started her own production company, similar to what Reese Witherspoon has with Hello Sunshine.
Mhm.
She's starting a production company as a way for her to develop projects. Some of them are her book club picks, some are other things, but she would like to develop Black Candle Woman as one of her projects. I
Oh,
could have like passed out right there. So
yeah.
yeah,
Oh my
so
God.
I had plans with girlfriends, my high school friends later on that evening. So I'm like, well, yes, I definitely will have a cocktail or two. But then of course they said, you can't tell anyone and this was 8 months out. They said you can't talk about it, you can't tell anyone. Um,
Did you have to go have cocktails with your girlfriends and be like, there's no way you can hide your expression and you couldn't tell them?
I couldn't tell them.
Like
And
you're in the CIA.
right? And then I even had like a follow-up call with my agent. Like she called me like during dinner and I'm like, I'm really sorry. I have to go take this call. And so I go out and I had to be like serious. Like I couldn't like freak out. And so I'm talking to her for a while. I just have to go back and talk about like high school stuff, you know?
This is amazing.
But they said you can tell your husband.
And did they tell you at the outset if they were thinking about adapting it for TV or film?
So their idea was it would be a television show, likely on a streaming service. They had identified a showrunner already, but they said, it's not set in stone. If I knew anyone, not, I was like, I don't know showrunner types, but then the negotiations started for a contract.
What level of involvement were you interested in having? Like, were you interested in being a script writer, like in the writing room? Were you interested in being a producer?
I know a little bit better now, but I was kind of just this happy to be here kind of I guess was my
Grateful.
philosophy. Yes. And also, understanding that just because I want to do something, it doesn't mean that I don't know if I really could do it. I think I was also a little bit I didn't want to rush to throw my hat in the ring saying I wanted to write it because like what if I really don't know, it'd been years and I hadn't written on an actual show. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I would love to, my philosophy was kind of like I want to be a part of it. I want to learn, but I wouldn't want to be the top dog, but I did want to have some screenwriting access
Mhm.
to the show. That actually ended up being a sticking point that kind of prolonged the negotiations because I wanted executive producer credit or at least producer credit, and that wasn't something that the company was willing to budge on.
Oh, interesting. Not even just producer.
Not producer. I was able to get co-producer, which is essentially a non-writing consultant is how they phrased it. So I could offer like maybe pitch storylines or give ideas, but I wouldn't be a writer.
Did that make you a little uneasy of like not having any kind of say in it?
Not so much because um I understand the difference sometimes, or the changes that sometimes need to be made to a book for it to make sense,
Oh yeah.
um, as a visual story. Some things you might have to change or bolster or skip over for dramatic effect, especially if we're talking about a series that has to engage the audience and keep them coming back. And again, like I said, I wanted to be a part of the team to learn this a little better. And then maybe if there was an opportunity for another book or another story or additional seasons, I would feel more comfortable
Yeah.
in that role.
Yeah.
But I did, I think, want more of the writing. I wanted the writing credit or the
Yeah.
writing portion of it to be in the contract, but that wasn't something that they were, um,
Yeah. They weren't giving that up.
right. They weren't giving that up.
So tell me about the process of like them getting this showrunner. Who was the showrunner?
A woman by the name of Carla Banks Waddles. She was the showrunner the last two seasons of Bel Air on Peacock. So she has a contract with Universal, which is Jenna's company is under Universal Studios Group.
Okay.
And or that's who she has the first look deal with. And so I had an opportunity to speak with her as well. And I really liked her take on the story and how she wanted to frame it. She talked about keeping very true to the original story for the first season and then using that as a launching pad into future seasons to go in different directions. So,
Oh wow, so her vision was to take the first season from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, and then future seasons would be brand new stories that you didn't write yet.
brand new stories or going back in time since we have the element of 1950s New Orleans, and that's a part of the book, but there definitely is ripe for developing that and really especially if you want to get into kind of like the voodoo hoodoo
Yeah.
aspects
Yes.
and keep grounded in New Orleans, there's a lot of opportunity there. The main character of the story is a therapist who operates out of her home, and so she also thought about exploring clients that come in and maybe we stay with them for a couple of episodes but they rotate similar like we I don't know if you watch The Pit, which is a
Oh,
medical
I've seen that. The Noah Wiley's
yes and
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so every episode you have new patients that are coming in. We get a glimpse of their story, and they're threaded with the longer story arc. But so you could do something similar with her clients that are, even though those they might come back on a regular basis. But yeah, so I really liked the way that saw the structure of the story and how she wanted to dig into the characters and who they really were, and how they interacted with one another and the world. I was very impressed.
And then did you get to see scripts as they were coming in, like drafts of the script?
So my contract was signed in October of 2022, but the book didn't come out until 2023. And so and she's working on Bel Air. And I think it was about the time when they were going to start with the pitches after the book came out. They wanted to wait until the book came out before they started pitching.
Oh, right. I forgot that the book isn't even out yet.
Yeah,
That's
the book hasn't even come
so
out.
crazy. Because
Yeah,
normally you hear about books coming out and being like huge bestsellers and then they get made into a TV show or a film. But they picked it up based on Galley, so the book wasn't even out yet. That's so
yeah.
wild.
You know what's wild is, do you know in like publishers marketplace, when a book deal is first announced, they'll just have like a quick little log line about the book is. Companies are finding content or IP just from that little blurb. So they'll read a little blurb and they'll see this concept and they'll reach out to the publishing house or the agent and say, hey, can I read an outline or can I get a first look at this when it is finished? And so things are getting snapped up.
Yeah, this is the whole crazy IP craze now is just people like looking, really trying to find books that aren't those like bestsellers or on everybody's like, 5 summer must read list because everybody gets those same lists, right? So those are all known. So all these scouts are like, where do we go? Like, how do we find books that
Yeah.
aren't already out there that nobody knows before they come out so that they have
Right.
them in advance? So that's kind of
Yeah.
what Jenna did.
Yeah. I don't want to say it's chump change for them, but it's usually not a huge amount of money from their end to have the rights to make something because then if they wait and the book comes out and it's huge, then hey,
Can't
we
afford
already
it.
have the rights. We don't have
Yeah.
to negotiate, we don't have to compete. We
Yeah.
don't have to, and if it's not a big hit, I mean, they can still make something that's not a huge hit, right? If they think it'll make great TV or a great
Yeah.
movie, then hey, they
Yeah.
can, they'll develop it. But
Giving a writer like 10 grand to secure them for a year or 2 years is nothing to them.
exactly,
Sadly, it's so much to us.
exactly.
But yeah, and then they have it locked down for whatever term the contract is.
So, I had this offer basically to sell the rights to Thousand Voices, which is uh her production company. And so I met with the entertainment lawyer that I hired, that I signed with. We saw the deal that Universal pitched, and he said, it's not a bad deal, but you don't have to take this deal. You can wait until the book comes out, and depending upon what happens, you might have others who
Mm.
also would like to buy the rights. And he was very straightforward with me. He's like, most of these deals don't happen. Most of the time, the adaptation never occurs. Would you be okay if this never gets made? Are you going to be happy with this amount of money that you're getting as a fee? Or do you want to wait until it comes out and maybe you have multiple offers, and you can see who is giving you the best offer?
That's a tough gamble.
It is.
Yeah.
So ultimately I went with the bird in my
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah. I would
And
have done.
also, yeah, yes, because I mean, there's no guarantees. And also, like I said, I wanted to work with Jenna's company. I like their philosophy and the fact that she had picked my book for Read with Jenna. I didn't want to bite the hand that, not that fed me, but that like promoted me, right?
When the people who believe in you in the beginning, that's an important relationship. I
Right,
believe that. And, it might go awry. It might not work out in the end, but there's a lot to be said for people who love your work
right.
for anybody else.
That was exactly how I felt.
So before she wrote a script, what did she create? Like a deck, a pitch
Oh,
deck for
yes.
her to pitch it?
They had a pitch deck. They were just about to start that whole process once the book came out. And that is when the writer's strike
Oh,
began. So that kind of ended all discourse and everything stopped. However, I think what Carla was doing at the time, even though she wasn't supposed to be writing, I think she was still,
yeah.
I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing she was still writing, right?
That's like when you ask a jury to strike something from the record.
Right.
Like you don't just forget about what somebody said, or you don't forget about what you're creating. Maybe she wasn't putting pen to paper, but you can't stop your brain from working.
Right. Yes. And it's likely she was working on things, but not showing,
Yeah.
she wasn't giving them to anybody. Essentially, it meant that there was nothing that was happening for 5 months.
Man.
And then once the strike ended, what I was kind of hearing is that, well, now there's so much content because nothing has moved. And so now people, again, even though writers were not writing and sharing, they probably were writing. And so there was so much content, and it was the end of the year, and most of the streamers, they had already exhausted their budgets for that year. And so we were going to wait until early the next year to go and do the pitches. But I did see the pitch deck and the script, and learned a lot from that process.
And does it look like, are there images in there? Are there like photos of actors for each character? And are they real actors? And even if
Yes.
you're not like gonna get them for the show, they'd put them in there.
Yeah, exactly. They really set the stage about what it could look like. New Orleans and the house where they live in Long Beach, and the main characters who, they're not necessarily saying this is who we have in mind, but a person like this is basically
Right.
kind of what the image is meant to symbolize.
It's kind of like the way we have to comp our book. Like our book is like this book and this book and this book, but this is how it's different. So they're kind of creating a world of your book with other references.
And then going through what's going to happen in the pilot and what's going to happen throughout the rest of the season, and then what's going to take it into how it's going to end. But what cliffhanger are we going to leave to continue on to a new season?
Can I ask you a question about there's the pilot script is written, but then in terms of how do they do an episode breakdown? Was it like 10 episodes and there was kind of a paragraph for each, or were they a page each? What did that look like?
Well, at this point with the pitch deck, when I saw the pitch deck, the pilot hadn't even been written, but it
Oh,
was just more conceptually, these are the types of things that are going to happen over. So then they kind of go on the road show, I think in spring is by the time um because even the pitch deck still had to be blessed by certain higher ups. And then it's time to go and have these meetings. There's some interest early on. I think the first pitch that they did, and it looked like we were going to go with this streamer. And when I'm saying we, it's not me. We,
you had
because
absolutely nothing to do with it.
yes, yes, but
Can
I
you
also don't
say
want
who the streamer was or no?
I won't say who it is, but it's probably the most obvious. It was under the production company,
Okay, well,
connected
flash
with
it on the
production.
screen subliminally.
Yes.
Okay.
But then kind of at the last minute, another streamer came and gave a very aggressive offer that kind of made the team pause and say, oh, maybe we should consider this. And so I think, so then there was some time when they were negotiating back and forth. But they ended up by summer is when I heard, and this would be summer of 24, that they had decided to go with the original streamer that had said that they were interested. And
Hmm.
so it was kind of late, either late 24 or January 25 when I saw the pilot.
When you say you saw the pilot, they didn't shoot anything. It was the script.
They didn't, the script for the pilot, I should say, right.
Okay.
I didn't read it in a lot of detail because one, I was starting to work on a new book, and I was kind of very much like into just focusing on that book because I had a finite time to get it finished. Um, and two, I was kind of scared. I was a little bit scared.
Can
Um,
only imagine.
yes, but it was done well. It was making me it was a lot more dramatic than the book. in a good way.
Yeah.
Um, but I was just thinking of just well, my parents have passed away, but other significant adults. It was very it was a lot more sexual.
More
That's what I'm trying to
sex.
say.
I mean, it's
Like
TV.
right, yes,
Yeah, you got to get like
exactly.
this, like heavy on the sex, heavy on the voodoo, heavy on the
Yes,
four generate like women living together in a same house.
yes,
That's a lot of energy.
right. So yeah, everything was turned up a lot. But again, I understand that's what you have to do for
Yeah,
television, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
so
There's
yeah,
no like time to just meander through somebody's thoughts and gracefully get to the first
right.
shag.
Yes, yes. We just started right in there. But we were also coming to the end of my contract. We had already gone through 1 year, which the end of that year got pushed back. That 5 months of the strike got
Right.
added on. And so I had a 1 year um deal plus a 1 year extension. So we had started the extension, but that was going to be ending in the spring. And so I was kind of, wondering what was going to happen. Was it going to get made in time, or were they going to add another extension, or was it just going to be over and done? Um, and so we get to the that last day, and we hear that ultimately the streamer decided that they didn't feel it was fit anymore because of a change in their programming. They were going to um, have a stronger focus with, I think, males and live sports and
Because we don't have enough men or live sports on TV.
right,
God,
right.
honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I also have to think about politics, things that have changed in the last 6, 8 months that we have seen have ramifications or impact on what's getting published, what we're seeing on TV, things getting canceled, you know. Um, no, I'm not trying to make myself feel better or anything,
No,
but
but you just don't
it's a
know,
reality.
I mean, it's like anything in life. There are a million reasons why any one thing happens, any one
Right.
decision is made, and there's so many people involved. You're talking about one production company and
Yes.
another production company and then Universal and then, and then the streamer. And there's so many people and so many decisions coming down. And then,
Right.
like you said, outside influences
Factors.
influencing those decisions.
Plus, I mean, things change, right? What 2 years ago, 3 years ago, what it's believed that audiences were watching or what they wanted, it does change. Our tastes do change. And so, you know, all sorts of factors. And so after, even though um, the rights were basically came back to me, um, they asked if they could still go back to the other company that had come in with an aggressive offer to see if they might still be interested. But just heard a few weeks ago that that was also dead. So
Yeah,
I
I mean, that's going
right,
to be a tough sell to like say no to a big streamer and then come
right.
back. Hey, knock, knock, knock.
Yes.
Me again.
Remember how much you love this?
Yeah. I love you too. I mean,
So I have my rights back, and again, taste change. It was pitched to all the big streamers, so I don't think it would make sense to try to go out now, find somebody else to buy the rights and or try to write it myself and go out. But who
you have a
knows?
new book.
Right. Well, that's a whole other story.
Oh, no.
Trying to get a deal for this book and a third book that I'm working on over the summer.
So
But
you
yeah,
have
I,
two new books. Oh, you have one. Okay. You have two new books.
I
One in
have one that's on submission and I have one that I'm um trying to finish in the next next month or two.
Oh
So.
my gosh. And do you think that are you excited about the possibility of either of those books getting adapted for film or television?
Um, I mean, yeah,
Your
again,
voice,
I
your
think
voice went up like 7 registers.
I think I'm not definitely not as naive. And I don't even want to say naive. I know a lot more now, and I'm glad that I went through the process. Hey, I got paid the fee for the rights
Amazing.
to the book, which is just extra money that I'm not going to complain about.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's it's tough, to get a book adapted. And I don't know if I should have even been worried about this because that's way down the line, but what I was seeing is that um books adapted by Black authors, they would get one season and then they're not renewed. And I don't know if that's I don't know if that's worse or I don't think it's
Yeah.
worse,
I
but
don't think it's worse because, like you just said, it didn't make it to the screen, but you still got paid and
right,
you learned so
right,
much throughout the process.
right. But I don't know. I feel like that would be heartbreaking as well in a way. Um
Oh, heartbreaking.
so but I think just have a different mindset now. And at the end of the day, I like to write books. And so I see anything beyond getting a book sold and people reading it as a bonus, as a blessing, as something wonderful, but it's not something that I want to count on. Not saying that, I'm writing something and I might think, oh yeah, I could picture that in a, on a show or a movie or whatever. I could see that, but I don't think I can help think that way now. But again, it's not how I don't make decisions based on that.
Wow, that is quite a tale. Thank you for letting me take up your precious end of summer time working on your new book. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, this has been fun. It's been great talking to you, and I appreciate you letting me gab on about my my story and
No, I think it's so important to tell these stories for other people because like anything, if you don't have a community, if you don't understand what other people's experiences are, you think it's just you.
right.
Right? You think that it's just so hard for you. Your edits are there's so many edits. You were supposed to publish this year and it got pushed to this year and you don't know if that's normal. You don't know if you suck. Like there's no barometer unless you talk about things. I hope it's helpful to our listeners. And also I loved an excuse to read this book.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's beautiful and magical. Um, and now I'm sad we don't get to see it on the screen, but maybe one day.
Yes. And I have to get your book. I'd love to read your book. So,
Oh, yeah, that's also out there in the world. It's a very different subject, but sweaty, like New Orleans makes me think of sweat. So yeah, a bunch of skaters sweating. That might be where the similarity of our books ends.